Hey everyone, Coach Lori here with another session of Conversations with Courageous Cancer Warriors. I'm super excited for our guest today, Miss Laura Weisman. She is a mom of a 4.5-year-old and of a 9-year-old fur baby who my Johnny Nash would probably absolutely love because he's a Great Dane. And married for 10 years, was recently diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, and we're going to get into all of that. And you know what? She spends her days helping organizations create an inclusive culture. How cool is that? So based out of Toronto, Laura, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Laura. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
So I stalked you a little bit on Instagram. That's how you and I met. So I love your page first and foremost. And I would love to first start talking about, can we talk about your dog for a little bit here for a second? Because
Yes.
I don't know if people could see it, but I actually have a dog, my baby, on my shirt. You know, I'm dog obsessed. So talk to me a little bit about, we'll get into the details of your journey and all that, but, talk to me a little bit about what it's like to have such a loving pup near you during a really trying time.
All right. This is easy for me because he was my first little boy. So we've had him since he was a puppy, since he was 8 weeks old, and his name is Fenway. My husband is a huge Boston Red Sox fan. So the goal or the deal was you name the first dog, I name the first kid, and that worked out pretty well. So he's 170 pounds, big lover, just has been by my side. And I mean, animals, you're an animal lover too, Lori. I'm sure you've seen that they're just intuitive. They know, that something's going on. And whether that was, when I was pregnant with our son Landon, or when I was diagnosed, having him by my side through all of it. I mean, it was just, if I think back to when I was pregnant, I remember one time we were in a walk in the forest. I'm a bit of an adventure person, and he was pawing at me to get off this log that I was jumping on. And so very protective in that sense. And I think, you look back to when I was going through cancer treatment, and literally on those rough days, he was lying in bed with me by my side. And he's almost 9 years old now. So I've always said to him, I'm like, bud, you just got to get me through this. You got to get me, by my side, keep going, because Danes aren't traditionally known for very long lives. He's my best bud. And fortunately, we've had him, as I said, almost 9 years now.
Oh, he's going to be around for much longer because he's got a name of Fenway. And as a person whose heart is in Boston, I've lived there for so many years. And, I worked at Dana-Farber, which is part of the Jimmy Fund Club. And they do so much stuff with the Boston Red Sox that the organization is amazing. And it sounds like your work organization is very similar, just really inclusive and want to do right by people. That Fenway's going to be around for a long time. I know it. He's going to be one of those miracle ones, miracle Great Danes. Now, talk to me a little bit about how you, how did you find out that you had cancer? Tell me a little bit about what the experience was like for you.
Yeah, so it was one of those things. There's no history of breast cancer in our family. Even cancer, as a rule of thumb, there's nothing that's, kind of that shining star, that's really pointing to, hey, this might be in my future. So one night, my sister was over, and I'm giving the girls a feel for some reason. And I'm like, Nick, I think I actually feel something. And she's like, well, and she's a nurse, so I have a lot of respect for her in that she knows kind of the medical side of things, but I also don't like to throw things on her plate and say, what is this? Because I don't want her to ever feel like she's obligated to diagnose me and then incorrectly. But she just encouraged me to go and see my doctor, which I did. I made the appointment and went in, and she didn't actually think it was anything at first. I love my doctor, but she's just like, I don't think it's anything, but I'd rather err on the side of caution. And she said, we'll send you for an ultrasound. I'm really not expecting anything back. And so one thing from another kind of led from that is that, went for the ultrasound, and from there, they then they wanted to send me for a biopsy, and right away, like in hindsight, looking back, that was the day I should have really known, hey, this was really happening. Because the doctor that did the biopsy, he took whatever it is that they take out, and he goes, yeah, we're going to need you to go for a mammogram right now. And so that wasn't part of my day. And so we added the mammogram to the mix. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I got that call from my doctor in here in Toronto. They don't just call you and tell you the results. They say that you have to come in and talk. And
Yeah.
I was, you mentioned my work, and I was actually at work when I got that call. And my friend and colleague was with me, and I broke down right away. I knew I hadn't even heard the news, but I knew there's no reason you're calling me into the office to say, hey, things look great.
Right.
So happy to tell you that, right? So that was probably, 9:00 in the morning, went and got the news. And unfortunately, my husband was out of town for work that day, so he couldn't meet me there. My family, my mom and my dad were there. My dad waited in the parking lot. My mom came up with me, and we had my husband on speakerphone. And you hear the words that it's just like something out of a nightmare, that, hey, yeah, you do have cancer. And that was it. That was how we found out, and the story there.
Yeah, it's crazy because I have a very similar story where I went for my baseline. And that's when they found I had 4 masses on my left. And the week before, I had gone to my primary care. We did self-exams. She didn't feel it. I didn't feel it. And there they are on my mammogram. And I didn't think anything of it when they called me back and they're like, hey, you need to go for an ultrasound, because it's very common for that to happen. But I knew that by the time they were measuring my lymph nodes in my axilla, because I'm in healthcare, right? I worked in oncology forever. I knew I had a problem. But just like yourself, nobody had yet to say, hey, by the way, you have cancer, right? So it's really traumatizing to go through all these tests and kind of know, but not really know, right? So what was that like for you? Like, how did you handle that?
I was in disbelief, I think. Like, obviously, you cried and you're in shock. My husband's away, and him and I are best friends. So he's, I was almost feeling worse for him, because at least I was with my mom, my dad, my sister came over that night. I had some support. He was, for whatever reason, I was more worried about him. He's 8 hours away. He couldn't get on a plane, couldn't drive. And I'm trying to convince him, yes, your wife just got told she has cancer. I don't want you to drive home right now, because you're going to get home at like 4:00 in the morning. It's not good. Like, I was so worried about him. And so, eventually he made his way home, and we kind of just went through it, and you're in shock. You don't really know what to expect. And I'd never let my head really go down that path that, hey, it was just going to be something else that we had to deal with. I mentioned to you that, my husband's American, and we dealt with the immigration process. And it's kind of weird that I'm actually comparing immigration and cancer, but it was really difficult. So, getting him here to Canada wasn't an easy process. And we kind of just looked at it like, this is another part of our journey, our battle, something that we'll overcome. And it might suck, just like, that process of immigration time, but we'll figure out a way. We're going to get through it. So, and that was kind of the mindset that I kept the entire time, because at the time our son was just 2.5 years old, and that was the only option. There was no, hey, let's figure out plans. It's just, let's figure out how we're going to beat this and keep moving on with life.
Yeah. And so honestly, your immigration was like your trial run, right? It kind of had you guys figure out how you needed to handle trials and tribulations before something like this happens. Now, what you said you were triple negative. So what was your course of treatment, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, no, so right away we had a lumpectomy. So I was diagnosed July 16th. Through a few friends and calling a few people, got in for surgery August 1st. Our surgeon wanted to get it out. It was a grade 3 tumor, so we knew it was aggressive. We knew with triple negative it's aggressive. my whole thought process was get it out, just get it out of me, and we can deal with whatever's next. So August 1st, we did the lumpectomy, and they removed 2 lymph nodes, one of which had smallly metatastasized in there. So they weren't overly concerned, but it also meant that I had the fortune, or whatever you want to call it, of 8 rounds of chemo. So we did every 2 weeks. It was a session of chemo, and then we did 30 rounds of radiation. So from August 1st, and then we finished up on February 25th with the last round of radiation. And then with triple negative, there's no really, as of right now, there's some trials going on, but here in Canada, and what my oncologist has recommended was you just go on with life, go back to living your normal life, and as much as you can, right? Which you know firsthand, it's not normal anymore. It's just it's a new part of life that you're living.
Yeah, and I like to say that you kind of lose your innocence, right? Your innocence of life, and you start new with a different set of eyes. Now, what surprised you the most?
So everything that you see in the movies and see, if you think about when friends or family had cancer, I don't know, I just had this image that chemo was going to be the worst thing that you could possibly imagine, that I'd be tossing my cookies every, few minutes. And so the first 4 rounds of chemo that I was on, with the exception of losing my hair, which that's a whole conversation in itself, I was fine. I worked, I went to meetings, I did not have any effects. Like, people joke, they're like, you're like some superhuman with cancer. Like, I don't even get it. Like, how are you going through chemo and doing all of this? And we couldn't really figure it out. Like, I was still in disbelief. And then the last 4 rounds, that's when the reality kind of hit in. And it was a very different story on the last 4 rounds, right? AC, I was completely fine. The Taxol just beat me up. So I think I went from this understanding that cancer was your chemo was going to be terrible, and I wasn't going to be able to kind of make my way through it, to, hey, I can accomplish anything. I can still go to meetings with clients and meet with people. And then it was, okay, I'm bedridden and can't move, and my bones hurt more than I could ever have imagined. That I didn't think this type of pain was possible. Yeah. So it was always like, there was just, whenever you think something's normal and then it changes, right? And you're like, okay, that's a surprise. Didn't think that was going that way.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point, and our bodies, they decide how they're going to react. Like, one day you're fine with something, and the next day it's like not so good. So what did you feel made a difference for you going through that?
I think, so I spent 2 years prior to getting sick. There was some challenges that I kind of faced. We had 2 miscarriages as a family, so we had dealt with some, I guess, some loss, some issues, some things that, the adversity that you face, where you have to kind of move on. And I've worked with a mentor for the last 3 years, and he kind of helped prep me, get my mindset kind of on straight to, hey, you know what? Life's going to throw you curveballs. No one's life is perfect, despite what Instagram or whatever else, Facebook, everything else appears. No one's life's that way. So it's how do you pivot? How do you adjust? And I've always been a very positive person. So for me, it was just remaining positive. I did start a blog which was only positive with triple negative. And I tried to maintain that the entire time. I've always had that kind of mentality that if you stay positive and you're happy, then good things are going to happen. If I sat and, wallowed in, oh man, I have cancer. Yeah, it sucks, but a lot of people have cancer and it sucks for them too, right? So it's just, how do you adjust? And then for me, I surrounded myself with a lot of people, and I'm very lucky that I'm very close with my parents and my sister, and as I said, my husband and son, that core group. But then outside of that, people stepped up everywhere. I was, you asked earlier about a surprise. The amount of people that, kind of really just rose to the top, and people did meal trains for us. And I had girlfriends got together and they dropped off, I think they said cancer sucks, but so does cleaning. And they dropped off this package of cleaning gift certificates, and just the thoughtful gifts. And it wasn't necessarily like about the actual gift, but it was people just went, you know, FU cancer mugs, or a picture of, you know, me back when I played hockey, and saying, you know, this is just another kind of battle. You're in the corner and you need to get through it. And so people were so thoughtful. People that I met on Instagram who I never actually have talked to in my life were sending me things and messages of hope. And so that really kept me going, and kept me just focused that there were so many people rooting for me. It was just like it sounds weird. It was like a game. It was like just another challenge. I needed to beat it and win. And I knew that I had a team of people supporting me to do that.
I absolutely love that. And you're so right, because, you know, I kind of did the opposite, where I kept it really close. Part of it was because I worked in the, you know, the cancer industry. I didn't want my coworkers to know, like it became a thing for me. But, you know, it's really true that people go two ways. You either are an open book, which I am now fully, but in the moment, part of how I reacted was I became an ostrich, is what I like to call it. Like I put my head in the sand, even though it's, you know, and I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to do it. I just need to go through it. And like, you know, and then there's people like you who are like, hey, shouting it from the rooftop. And like, I find it so amazing. And I just commend you, because as somebody who kind of can't do that, I'm kind of jealous, right? I pissed a lot of people off by not really telling people what was going on. Like I secluded myself until I was able to start talking about it. But I agree with you, like people's generosity during your time of need is huge. So how did you accept it all? Was that ever a concern for you? Like,
so I mentioned my sister. She's in the nursing field, and she just we actually, so 7 years prior to me being diagnosed with cancer, she had something called GBS, which is Guillain-Barré syndrome. Your medical background, you're probably familiar with it. So she was paralyzed from the neck down for 21 days in the ICU. So her and I are kind of like, we call ourselves the unicorns, right? And so we said, you know, back then she didn't have an option, like because she was paralyzed, she couldn't speak, she couldn't talk. I brought everything in. We had positive reinforcement signs all over her hospital room. And so she would be the one that would constantly remind me, like, people just want what's best for you. You need to accept it. You need to take it. You need to, like, you know, she'd come over and she'd paint my nails, or someone would come over and do something, like just do little things. And she's like, just say thank you. She's like, because all of these people, and like, I'm talking, there's so many, she's like, the only reason they're in your life is because you've been good to them. And so everything is kind of full circle, that if you treat others well, it's going to come back, and you're going to see the benefits of those relationships that you've built, which I think is a big part of it. So although it was hard at times, and you know, you had those moments where you're like crying and you're like, holy crap, I can't believe you just gave me that. Like you didn't need to do that. Like that wasn't necessary. And you just accepted it, and just were extremely appreciative. And like I said, I never wanted anyone else to ever go through it. So the more I could tell people, and the more people I told, the more people that were nice and would do things for me and give things, and just, or even just call, like silly things. One friend from work who lives in Baltimore, she would just send me stupid memes every single day to make me laugh. Like those are the things that, like, there's no dollar amount attached to it, but it was just like that effort that she put in daily to make me laugh, where I like just things that were far probably inappropriate, but you need your mind just to think about anything but the cancer during certain days, right? So it was good. And all of those people I continue to kind of keep in my circle, and let them know how much I love them and care for them, and try and be there for them in any way I can.
Yeah, and it is a testament to who you are for the world, to have these people want to be a contribution to you. One of the things that, you know, I was a little bit overwhelmed by it, and I was surprised, right? Like my friends were fighting about who was going to take what block in the Excel spreadsheet to be able to come over and sit next to me, right? And it got to a point where I was just like, guys, you got to go home. I'm fine. Like after like 8-9 weeks of having a second by myself, I was like, you got to go. I'm really sorry. And like, I felt bad, but I'm like, I need some time alone.
It's true, right? Yeah. It's overwhelming. Like it's overwhelming. Like you just, so people want to help, and you're like, what? But you have to kind of for your own mental well-being, be like, all right, I love you, but back off.
Right.
Like, just
Right.
give me some space.
So what would you say to somebody who is, just starting out in their journey that would give them hope?
I think the thing to remember, and John does a really good job at doing this, is just your story is different than everyone else's story. So focus on that and know that, because it's hard, cancer's all around us. You're going to see people die. You're going to see, like, I stopped watching every single medical show because I'm like, people die of cancer every 5 minutes. I can't do it anymore. I'm done. And, even when I would see like news articles of different people that have passed away because of cancer, it's hard. You mentally, you have to kind of prep. But the only thing that you can control is your mindset. So you need to remember that your story isn't their story and vice versa. And so keep your head on just that positive outcome, and focus on that, and don't allow yourself to go down those holes on a consistent basis. You still need to have an ugly cry. You still need to scream. Yeah. Maybe you need to punch a wall. Maybe you need to do whatever you do to get it out. That's okay. But you need to remember that, your story, you're going to keep fighting. Your story isn't going to be the same as everyone else's. So to stay positive, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And, especially with the month of October, I dread October. I have a really hard time with it. It's everywhere. And I feel, we have that Pinktober, or there's a saying for it. Yeah, Pinktober. And then there's another one. And it's just a really good reminder that, like, be of a contribution to someone local to you. Like, do the small things. You nailed it when you said your friends were giving you cleaning services, they were giving you meals. For those of you listening who have someone in your life that is going through something similar and they need some support, like, tell them what you're going to do. Tell them, like, hey, I'm going to come over and do your laundry, or I'm going to come over and bring you food. Don't ask them, because it's one of those things that we're going to tell you, I'm good, right? Like, I don't need any help. I'm okay. So, but if you approach it in a way that you're like, no, I'm doing this, like, you kind of put us in a spot where all we can do is receive. So it's kind of something I learned along the way in my journey, like, have it be okay. People want to be a contribution to you. And also, like you said, if it doesn't lift you up, ignore it. So for me, I just like you, that. I cut out a lot of TV. Like, I don't even own a TV in my house. I cut out a lot of TV. I don't read the news, right? Very limited. Yeah. And when October rolls around for me, because for some reason it's really hard, and I hate being reminded, because all I do in my life is just try to live normal. Especially now that I'm 3 years out. October is hard because it's everywhere. And I feel that it's glamorized, and it's like, ooh, let's help people. And it's like, there has to be somebody in your life that you can support, that you don't need to put like all these pink ribbons everywhere. Like, I get it, but it's like, we don't want people to understand what this feels like, right? So,
no.
Like, I don't know if I'm making any sense. I'm making sense to myself.
No.
But.
Yeah, no, completely. It's a mixed bag, right? Because on one hand, you're like, why is it that we're only focusing on it during October when, this is something that is so important. Yeah, like, if you find a lump in January and you wait until October to go and be like, well, now's when we get our breast screenings. It's a good time to go. Right. It might be too late. So I mean, like, that's it is. It's hard. On one hand, you're like, hey, it's coming up, and it is a good reminder. When I was, going through things, I would do, and I didn't know there was a whole Feel 'em on the First movement, but I would do Feel Your Boobs Friday. And literally, I would take pictures with like different people holding your boobs, and people would text me and they'd be like, I actually went and like felt my boobs in the shower on this Friday, or I did this. And I'm like, all right, then at least you're doing something, right? And so I think it's a message that just needs to be reminded year round of how important it is to get that early screening, because with breast cancer specifically, it can be the difference of whether you live or die in some cases, right? So, but I totally get, I'm sure like every different thing that you hear, right? It can change the way you feel, and depending on what else is going on in your life, right?
Absolutely. And when people asked me, when I got to a point where I was good and I was able to be self-sufficient, even though it took me a really long time to open door. I had a bilateral mastectomy. So I couldn't open doors I still can't open a bottle of water. Don't even ask. But, I would just tell them, I'm like, what you could do for me is just go and get screened. Just go get screened, do your self exams, and just take care of yourself. Like that's most important to me. And I love this Feel Good Friday. I might have to like steal that and put that on my wall. I think that's going to become my Instagram.
I like it.
So
we can do something with that. Let's do
it.
it.
We totally let's tag team. Let's make this happen. I think it'd be amazing. Yeah. And I'm just so blessed that you are here. I'm blessed that you are good. And I just really honor you and your story and being on this show today. Like your story definitely has made a difference for people. And so if there's ever a way that we can support you and be a contribution to you, right? Like we talked about this whole time, let us know. So lastly, like where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to reach out, they can definitely do so. You can find me on Instagram, kind of how you and I connected. I don't have anything that's specifically focused around cancer. It's Laura and her boys, I think. And so you can definitely, message me, reach out. Usually I'm posting different things that might be related to cancer, or very often it's my pup and our son and the antics that they're getting up to. And I can guarantee you'll have a good laugh at watching, the things that we post. So I mean, laughter is so important, right? You just have to keep a sense of humor and laugh and enjoy and be happy. So for sure you can go through there, or my blog, which I try and keep up on, but I think for me, that was a little bit of a therapy, portion of when I was going through cancer. So I don't necessarily post as much, but I do try and keep some stories of what's relevant to me now and 2 years out. And like you said, the feelings, different things come up 2 years out, 3 years out. I'm sure for the rest of our lives, you just have a different view of everything. So please, if I can help someone, please reach out. I'm happy to do so. Share stories, or look me up on Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is.
I love it. Thank you. And your blog posts, from 2 years ago are definitely relevant to somebody who's just started. So definitely we'll make sure that link gets posted in this session. And I just lost my train of thought because you just said something and now I can't remember what you said.
Well, while you're thinking, I'll thank you.
Thank you. This is tamoxifen,
right? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Right here.
Completely, right? You're mid sentence, and yeah, it happens all the time. But
and I'll admit it to everybody that like I have severe bouts of insomnia because of tamoxifen. I've also been diagnosed with adult onset ADHD because of it. And last night was one of those nights that I literally have been up for now 24 hours. Like I did not get any sleep last night.
You look great.
Oh, thank you.
You might not feel great, but you look great.
That's why I'm like, is it the tamoxifen or is it the fact that I haven't slept? Oh wait, it's probably both, right? But yeah, it's truly a pleasure. And you were saying something about a positive mindset. What was I thinking? I don't know. It'll come to me. I'm so sorry that I can't remember. But yeah, thanks for being you and for being on this show today. And we'd love to have you back. So why don't we celebrate some anniversaries by you coming back on the show? I think it'd be really, really great.
Deal. Sounds good. Let's do it. You've got me for sure. So thank you again for just helping anyone dealing with cancer. I think it's awesome what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much. And I feel the same. And that was what I was going to say to you is the humor. I can't agree more. You need to keep laughing. So that's what the message for today is, folks. Whoever is listening out there, find the humor in it, because there's always going to be a negative to everything that you do. You need to find the good. And if it doesn't make you smile and it's not something you have to do for your life, then don't do it. Right? If cancer taught us anything, it's like you have a choice. So thank you again so very much. And I look forward to your Instagram account.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, Lori.
Have a good one.
Thanks, you too.